What's up, Steelhead Stompers? I'm Quacker's Co, and this is the fish fry for November 7th, being held at Sockeye Station. Our cookware composition is the Splat Roller, the Dually Squelchers, the Nautilus 47, and the Heavy Splatling. This composition has 2 Splatlings in it, so it'll be helpful to have extra paint on those walls and the turf. Those weapons have massive damage that they can deal, but if they can't get to an advantageous spot, they won't be able to deal that damage. And once it's all painted, our movement options explode with possibilities, both for getting in and getting out, and if we get bumped out on high tide, we can actually grab onto the side of the tower and climb ourselves back up. And Sockeye Station is so big that getting to all these shoreline bosses can be a little tedious if we don't have this stage painted. And all the cookware of this composition all has very similar range. So even though we can take out those bosses from a distance, we still need to remember to lure easy splat bosses to the basket. And just in case you haven't noticed it yet, flyfish missiles do not go through grates, so you can use that as a shield to block flyfish missiles. And of course you can throw an egg from the shoreline to the top of the tower. Something really interesting about mudmouth waves that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about is how the different lessers that spawn will change which weapon roll needs to be throwing bombs and needs to be focusing on lessers. I just think that's really interesting about mudmouth rounds. And also with this composition having 2 different Splatlings, if we're on a Grillers or Glowflies wave, the Dually Squelchers and the Splat Roller should be on lesser control, especially since that roller can roll over chum. And also with this range on Sockeye Station, that tower will be super useful for taking out that mothership before it's even getting close. Low tide at Sockeye Station is massive, just like regular tide, and should be treated just like any other occurrence. If it seems like one of those shoreline bosses is going to be a problem, feel free to activate a special. But do know that there are these options on the sides for making a quick approach on a boss that might become a problem later. But don't get too far away from the basket. The range of this composition can easily take out salmonids spawning from that center water pit. And especially during low tide and high tide, fish sticks become a high priority target. They are in the perfect position to take out all of our mobility around the basket. So with the size of this map, make sure you don't linger on that shoreline for too long. There's just some damage that we won't be able to avoid. And then when we go down, our teammates have to cut their firepower, that way they can come revive us. So try to keep everything painted, and remember all those different movement variables that we have to get around on this map. Alright, let's get into the cookware. Our first cooking utensil is the Splat Roller. The Splat Roller is definitely more of a turf coverage weapon. It has some awkward paintability on walls, but its fling does have a pretty good amount of range on it. But remember, with the roller's 3 different ways of attacking, it gives us a lot of damage output options. And what's really nice about the Splat Roller is that it takes out chum and paint over the enemy ink. Our second cooking utensil is the Dually Squelchers. The Dually Squelchers have probably the most user-friendly wall paintability of this composition, so try to do your best to get extra paint on those walls during the beginning and end of the matches. Both the Dually Squelchers and the Splat Roller should probably be focusing more on lessers. They'll be good weapons to make quick approaches to the shoreline and then get themselves back out. Our third cooking utensil is the Nautilus 47. The Nautilus 47 has a steady charge to it, which means it works really well with half charges and full charges. Quick charge bursts can do a really good job on taking out lessers that are getting a little close to you, and this weapon has a pretty good amount of range to it. Its full charge takes about 3 seconds to get to, so make sure you give yourself time to get it charged. The weapon does have the ability to hold a charge while it swims, which can be used when you're swim jumping off of a fish stick or swim jumping away from a boss and causing some quick damage to an enemy right after jumping. Our fourth cooking utensil is the heavy Splatling. The heavy Splatling's charge is different than the Nautilus 47's. It takes a longer amount of time to get it to that half charge, which still works really well on taking out lessers, but where this weapon shines is when you get it to a full charge. And the difference between a half charge and a full charge is double the damage, which means it'll make quick work out of these large HP bosses as long as you're able to get it to a full charge. So try to keep yourself topped off, that way you're never struggling to get there. If you're the last one standing and you have no ink, you're going to find it hard to get around. And if you make an approach on shoreline bosses, just try to give yourself an exit strategy. And during an extra wave, since we have these two different Splatlings, they can use their range and massive damage output to constantly focus their damage on the Cohozuna and bosses. And then the Dually Squelchers and the Splat Roller can focus on lessers and the Cohozuna while taking out those shoreline bosses. And the fish fry usually comes up before the stage rotation. So if you want to catch these updates when they're hot and fresh, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And if you want other GrizzCo employees to receive these tips, make sure you like and share the video. Bye-bye.